And joining us on the broadcast, we've got Captain Amit Singh, who's an aviation expert and also the former head at Airline Flight Operations and Safety. He's joining us on this broadcast. Captain Singh, thank you very much indeed, sir, for speaking to us here on WION. You know, these images of this plane which is said to have taken off just 825 feet in terms of its altitude, and then it came crashing down. In your assessment, what do you think has gone wrong? Because a civilian flight such as this is routine. You know, there are hundreds, thousands of flights that take off, and it does not result in a tragedy such as this.
It's a very sad moment for not just aviation, but the entire nation. It is intriguing how an aircraft which is airborne can come down all of a sudden. The images that we see, the aircraft nose going high, which means the aircraft piloted by the captain is desperately trying to keep the aircraft airborne, while there is something which is putting the aircraft down, which means the wings are not generating enough lift. You can see the flaps, which are supposed to be extended, are not extended. It's difficult to make out, but only the investigation or the initial investigation can tell us the number of reasons where in the past errors have been made and accidents have happened. If we start from the ground, the aircraft loading, was the aircraft loaded correctly? Was there a loading issue? Aircraft loaded more than the required or what the pilot was aware of? Did the pilot enter the weight correctly in the flight management system? Were the speeds accurate? There is always tolerance in the system. So even if there is a slight error, the system will absorb those errors. But this is a gross error which has happened somewhere. And it could be a combination of errors, which usually lead to an accident, not just one. So there could be a weight issue, wrong performance, combined by bird hit or something. Only an investigation tell us. In December, we saw the Boeing accident happen in Korea because of multiple birds which struck the airliner. And in a desperate attempt to land, they could have got saved, but there was an embankment on the ILS antenna, concrete. They crashed into concrete. So last-ditch effort to save the aircraft went by. So here also, there was a desperate attempt. At the end of it, you see, there is a trained pilot, a well-trained pilot who is supposed to react to the moment and determine what's going wrong in that split second. And now there are two pilots.
That is
so there are reports of a mayday transmission to the ATC, which means they were in their senses and they were aware that something has gone wrong, that they had that much time to convey that the aircraft is not flyable and there's a desperate need or an emergency. And they can forecast, they can see the aircraft going down. If
Captain Amit Singh, if I can just ask you here, before a plane takes off, I'm pretty sure, there have been these checks that have been done to ensure that everything is in order. Do you think, the fact that the pilots got into the cabin and then decided to take off, do you think there was a mistake that was done in terms of perhaps the maintenance, or do you think it's something that has happened once the plane was on the runway? Because there is at this moment a lot of speculation where people are suggesting that perhaps there was a bird that was hit by the plane, which resulted in the plane not gathering enough speed for it to take off smoothly. In your assessment, do you think something has gone wrong once the plane was taxiing on the runway, or is it something that's probably because of maintenance which has gone under the radar, which has not been detected?
No. If it is one engine which gets affected, the aircraft is completely flyable. From the perspective of aerodynamics, the aircraft is certified to fly with one engine. The pilots are trained to fly the aircraft with one engine every 6 months. Only if both engines are affected, then there is an issue that
हमसे सहयोग करिए और थोड़ी सी हमारे लिए जगह बना के रखिए ताकि हम एम्बुलेंस को ग्रीन कॉरिडोर बना के हॉस्पिटल तक पहुंचा सके। थैंक यू। जे प्रमाणे जॉइंट पोलीस कमिशनर
All right, so we just heard from the police official there, this time asking people to stay calm and not to give heed to rumors, because this, remember, is a very fluid situation at this moment. We still do not know as to what the scale of the tragedy is. There is, of course, an investigation that will be done. The black box of this plane will have to be retrieved, and then more information can be given out with more certainty. We've got Captain Amit Singh with us. Captain Amit Singh, we just had cut across to a soundbite to one of the local police officials there who was trying to maintain order. You were telling us that at this moment, it's difficult to, in fact, conclusively say as to what could have gone wrong. But you mentioned that even in the case of a bird hit, if one engine is damaged, the plane can still be flown, and the lives could have been saved. Is it possible? Because it's for the layman, it's difficult to understand as to the kind of impact that a bird hit can actually have on a plane that is just about to take off. Is it possible that more than one bird hit could have gone into either of the engines, and that is what may have resulted in a failure? Or is it outside the realm of mathematical possibility?
It is a possibility. We have seen in the past multiple bird hits. The Hudson River accident, in which the Airbus 320 suffered multiple bird hits, had to land in the river. So this is the most critical phase of the flight, the takeoff, and every pilot is trained for that. And the aircraft is completely flyable with one engine failure, which means 50% loss of thrust. But with both engines failed, because Ahmedabad, as it is, has a bird issue. There are a lot of birds around the airfield, and because of number of reasons, because of we have these dumping grounds, sanitation issues, so the birds are attracted around the airport. So there have been cases in the past, number of cases, and in fact, India, the bird hits have continued to rise every year. So that is a very big issue in terms of safety. Like I said, there could be issues with the takeoff performance. There have been errors in computing the speeds or entering the speeds, but those errors have been absorbed by the aircraft. The aircrafts are quite sturdy in that sense. Here, there is clearly an issue of engine thrust, because if there is a wrong speed issue, the pilots they have an option to give maximum thrust. So maximum thrust caters for all eventuality. With two engines running, the aircraft performance is not an issue. With single engine, it becomes an issue, and it could be compounded with another technical failure. The images are not clear, but I would like to see the image of the wing. From what I see from far, the flaps, which are supposed to be extended at takeoff, seems to be retracted. For what caused that retraction is very, I don't know. At that low altitude, what could be the reason that flap was retracted? That is a point of concern, an area which should be looked into. But the investigation will look at right from the training of the pilots there, I think the fatigue and the numbers which they had. All those things they will look at. I hope they look at it.
Indeed.
To get a real...
that's something that will be looked at. The pilot fatigue. How long had the pilot been flying? Because this is a very experienced pilot. From the information that we have, it was Captain Sumit Sabharwal with more than 8,200 hours of flying experience, along with First Officer Clive Kundar with 1,100 hours of experience. This is a statement by the DGCA. So for someone who has 8,200 hours of flying experience, I'm pretty sure the pilot is experienced enough to look at all eventualities. So unless there is an issue of fatigue or any other thing, because at the beginning of a flight, one assumes that the pilots are, both of them, on their toes, ready to take off, because that is the most intense and crucial aspect of flying. So an investigation, of course, will give us a better idea. But Captain Singh, in your assessment, the black box of this plane has to be found. What information, can a black box nav give to understand as to what may have happened in the cockpit just moments before this crash?
The black box will include the cockpit voice recorder, which will give the audio recordings of what is happening within the cockpit and of the transmissions with the air traffic controller. So will the air traffic controller tapes will be sealed to find out, and then it will give us was there a state of panic or not. We have to determine from the voice of the pilots when they are talking, and did they at some point know what was going wrong? They would have spoken about it. So these are all the indications which we can get from the CVR, from the flight data recorder. We get the actual parameters of what the flap setting was, what the speeds were, what the thrust was generating, was the thrust enough to sustain, why was the landing gear left down. So all these we have to combine the data and determine what was what was actually happening. That is the
in case there was some damage to the engines. This is at this moment all in the realm of speculation. In case there was a damage to the engines, how soon do you think the pilot would have known about this, and how soon could have taken remedial action?